vintage mint-in-box 1975 Mego Star Trek transporter with real transporter action. Hot darn.
Where did you get that?
That's from Stuart at the comic book store.
You went to the comic book store by yourself?
Yeah. It was fun. I walked in and 2 different guys got asthma attacks. Felt pretty good.
This calls for an expression of gratitude.
Ooh, am I about to get a rare Sheldon Cooper hug?
No, not this time. Then they wouldn't be special. Thanks, Penny.
You're welcome. Don't worry, I didn't forget about you. Leonard, I got you a label maker.
Wow. No, it's great. Also, mint in box.
And I got you a transporter, too.
Look, it was actually designed for my vintage Mr. Spock action figure.
Oh, that's great. Let's open it up and put them in there.
No, good Lord, no.
Why, they're just toys.
They're mint in box.
Come on, can't we open one up and
What's up, toy collectors? Welcome back to the M.I.B. Master Museum. I'll be your curator today. Guys, we got a fun one for you. A fun topic of discussion. We want to cover mint in box obsession. Why do some of us collectors have the syndrome mint in box obsession? Well, guys, I gotta be honest with you. I stand accused. I am a huge mint in box obsessed collector. And that obsession just didn't start overnight. It started decades ago. And the quick story, a collector friend of mine wanted to know exactly when and where did the mint in box obsession happen to me. And I was at a toy show years ago, probably 1996, 1995, somewhere around there. And I saw my Lone Ranger and Silver figure set, action figure set, that I had back in 1974. Now, mind you, these were mint in box, and the guy that was selling them had a sticker on them as a set, and that sticker price read $15,000. $15,000. And I said, but yeah, I had that set. I actually had that set, and it was one of my best toys of my entire life. And you guys know how I feel about my Lone Ranger figure. It really started my toy craze and my collecting craze. But $15,000, and the guy said, "Yeah, man, it's mint in box. It's it's pristine condition." I learned a lot of words that day. It's pristine condition. It's immaculate. And when you're asking for that type of price, I guess all of those words have to play a part. But that's what got me kind of thinking and said, you know what? I want to start collecting again. I want to really start back to collecting, and I want to keep my stuff in the box because I felt I was at an age anyway where I wanted it for more of historical purposes and value. I had action figures up to that point, but I wasn't really thinking about mint in box. I just enjoyed them. I just never bothered to take them out the box because I preferred them in the box. But it really didn't kick in until like about 1995 that I became obsessed with keeping all of my figures in their box, and not just keeping them in their box. The box themselves had to be pristine. Everything about the box, like I'm looking at my favorite, my 1990, I think this is my 1993 Electronic Battle Command Duke, which is in pristine condition. And the box tells the story as a collector. For collectors that love our action figures and collectibles in their box, the box has to tell a story. And that's another question I've asked in the past, what's so special about the box? As we heard in our opening audio, and the young lady said, well, what's the big deal? And that's what a lot of people say. What's the big deal? Well, it's if you're not a M.I.B. collector, it's hard to really put into words, but I'm going to try my best to do so. The big deal is historical factors. The big deal is having a figure that is perfect, almost perfect or near perfect in every and any way. Carded, boxed, you name it. And my museum mentality would kick in years after that. Probably in the early 2000s, I decided to start preserving my figures and seeking figures that were perfectly preserved for my museum that I wanted to establish and have. A museum of figures that are perfectly preserved in every way. From every decade, from every genre, we wanted to have figures like our 1973 rookies, the rookies figures from 1973, mint on card, all the way from 1973. And that's the mentality. We want to have every genre, every walk of life type of an action figure that we could put in our museum, showing its historical factors, perfectly preserved. Guys, what do you think about our mint in box obsession? Do you have a mint in box obsession? We want to hear all of that. We want to hear the pros and the cons, and we'll be getting into the pros and the cons of collecting mint in box. And as collectors, especially M.I.B. collectors, we know some of those pros and cons. The biggest, I guess, the con is that you can't, or the negative takeaway is that, well, you can't touch your figures. You can't play with them. You can't display them. They have to sit in the box. What fun is that? Where is the joy in that? Where's the passion in not being able to touch a toy that you love so much? Why? Because it's in pristine condition? Is that why you don't want to touch it? Is it because that it's been out of production for decades? Is that a reason? Sure. But not the only reason. You know, I could explain that to fellow collectors until I'm blue in the face why I keep everything in a box. But, you know, the truth is, guys, is that for me and me alone, my personal take on this is that I am simply preserving history. I am simply protecting history. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to be the caretaker of toys that are no longer produced. Somebody has to be a caretaker. And every toy you see up here, some has significant value and some doesn't. Some has minimum value. But one thing all of these toys share is that they're all pristine condition and they're all mint in box or card. And it's important. It's absolutely important. Especially, you know, I had people ask me, well, what are certain things that you want to look for when you're collecting, especially off eBay, Amazon, and other toy websites? What are you looking for? You're looking for condition. You're looking for condition. You're looking for the toy condition inside of the box, everything. Whether that toy has come loose to some degree because of a fastener or something like that. You're looking for any little thing, any defect or defect, as they say, in the box or the toy itself. Discoloration. If somebody has left the box out too long near the sun and it's faded, the box, but the box is in phenomenal condition, it's just faded. Well, those are things you want to look for. Those are things that you're going to look at if you are a mint in box collector. You want vibrant colors. As we're looking at our Spider-Man Origins, Iron Spider-Man. You're looking at big, vibrant, bold colors. You don't want tears in the box. You don't want anything that takes away from the outer and inner beauty of this action figure in its box or on its card. So all of these things play a huge role. And these are some of the guidelines I've been using for well over 20 years to kind of grade my figures and kind of help me navigate with my purchasing of these figures. All that stuff, it plays a part. It's an illness. My wife says it's an illness. You know, she's been in a toy store with me for a good 45, 50 minutes with literally the same exact figure in a box with two of them in my hand, looking at them, studying them, trying to figure out which one is more perfect than the other one. It's an illness, guys. And I don't wish this illness on my worst enemy. It is truly an obsession. Sometimes the obsession gets the better of me. We're looking at my Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas versus Serpents from my G.I. Joe Adventure Team line, all the way from 2003. This is another mint on card figure. But a funny story with this one is that a toy store clerk was willing to give me half off on one that I originally found that was badly damaged. And I didn't take the one that was about $8 cheaper because it was damaged. I took this one because it was in pristine condition. Crazy. That's where I heard a customer behind me whisper to a friend of his, I guess, "This guy's nuts. Take the deal." It's just an obsession, guys. We're looking at my Rapid Deployment Force skull figure. I purchased this figure twice. The first time the box came, it was the box was in, and you saw the video on that, it was in extremely poor condition. The figure was discolored a little bit because of the box had been compromised, and the integrity of the box had been, compromised. So what did I do? I kept that one because we'll keep those because the figure wasn't horrible, but I had to have another one. I had to have another one of this skull figure because that's how badly I wanted it. My Star Wars collector series, all the way from 1997. Luke Skywalker versus the Wampa. This figure set is, you can get this guy on eBay. And I think it took me a good 2 weeks to make a decision because I had to make sure I was getting the right set, that condition-wise. So I found a collector that had, count them, 12 pictures, photos of every angle of this figure set box and the figures themselves. 12 photos. It's an illness, guys. But it's a fun one. You're going to pay more. And when we get into the monetary value. I don't collect mint in box action figures for the monetary value. I just don't. It's strictly for my illness and for my museum. That's what I do it for. Guys, it's just, I can't tell you how much fun it is to own all of these figures. And I've been told, yeah, you have all these figures, man. You really can't touch them. You just essentially have a bunch of toys in boxes. But, that's one perspective. That's one way to look at it. I see it in an entirely different, beautiful light, if you will. Had a collector friend of mine, funny story. funny. I laugh every time I think about it. This guy had found, he had been looking for this particular M.I.B figure, Star Trek figure. I think from 1974. It was a Captain Kirk. And it was a different variation because of the skin tone. I guess was a little lighter, and I guess that's the rarer one. You know, the more the one that's looked at, you know, sought after more. At any point, this guy found it, and he was absolutely excited. Gave me a call. I found it. M.I.B. I found it. He brought it over to the museum, to my museum, so I could see it. And we're talking, and this, you know, we're talking about a figure that's over 30 something plus years old. He paid, oh God, it was some crazy amount. It had to be better than closer to a little over probably 1,000 or something like that. 1,300, 1,400, something, some crazy number. But the figure and the card and everything was beautiful. It was immaculate. It was pristine condition. And I see why he paid that much for it. This guy rips the bubble, tears the bubble away from the card, and opens the card. Oh, Lord, no. Are you kidding me? And I looked at him, and the look on my face was of sheer horror. And this guy starts laughing at me. He said, I came all the way over here just to do this in front of you, man, because I know it would get you. But he's not a mint on card or mint in box collector. And I thought he was, but obviously he wasn't. I mean, the sheer horror, I almost passed out. I almost passed out. But guys, it's all about having fun and doing the things you like to do. But I've been getting a lot of questions about, you know, how did I start, you know, collecting mint in box, and what was the purpose? What's the purpose? Why, you know, why do I enjoy it so much? And people want to know more about our museum and why we collect M.I.B. only. And, you know, we said, you know, let's put a video together and just kind of give some back history, some backlog on why we only do, you know, mint in box and mint on card action figures, so people can get a better understanding of who we are. You know, I've had people come on the on our videos and leave some very disturbing comments. Unfortunately, I've had to erase those comments and block those guys, those particular people, because of some of the language that was being used, because I was an M.I.B. collector. And that's just, you know, to each his own. We all have our illnesses in life, guys. Mine is collecting or chasing perfection in every aspect when it comes to action figures. And the love of it, the passion, the drive, the motivation of it simply is just so much fun for me. Guys, we would like to hear all of your collecting stories, whether they're M.I.B. mint in box stories or just stories of collecting. We would like to hear all of that. Leave your comments right underneath this video in the comment section. What got you into collecting? Why are you enjoy collecting so much? And we wanted to just take this time to kind of share some of that with you. Guys, you know the routine. We have a ton of fun in store for you. More awesome videos of naturally M.I.B. figures. Well, we want you to stay tuned. You know the routine, guys. God bless. And keep collecting.